Hello, Gareth from Tech Radar here again, but this time with the new iPhone X. Now, I've had this for 24 hours, so no time for a full review just yet, but those 24 hours have shown a lot of the new features that Apple's pushing, and I want to tell you all about them. Right, I'm going to kick off with design. Now, this phone is all about the screen. As you can see, it is mostly screen, but it's got more of a weighty feel to it. It's not the most heavy iPhone on the market, but it actually feels like it might be. It has that weighty premium design that you feel that if this is going to cost me £1,000, that's how it should be. The stainless steel band around the outside is evocative of the iPhone 3GS, but with sort of some smatterings of the iPhone 6 in there as well. This is an anniversary iPhone in many ways. The screen itself, being OLED technology, bezel-less with a little notch at the top, it's very Apple, isn't it? The quality of the screen is really good. The colour reproduction, the contrast ratios, the brightness, everything works really nicely. It's not going to be the same as, say, a Samsung Galaxy Note 8, but Apple's done it to a refined level that means this is the best screen you'll ever see on an iPhone, and that's what it wanted to achieve. Now, as you probably know if you've owned a phone before, the screen impacts the user interface, and Apple's had to retool iOS 11 to fit this new phone. The notch at the top means that you've now got two separate sections. One side has the battery and the Wi-Fi networks and all that kind of stuff. The other side has the time. What that means is you lose the battery meter. You can't see the percentages anymore because there's just not enough space for them. And if you've noticed, there's no home button here whatsoever. That means that everything is gesture-based. You're swiping to do things rather than touching a button, and that does take some getting used to. But even within 24 hours, the muscle memory is starting to come in. You do swipe up from the bottom. You do find yourself swiping left and right to get to things, and the control center in the top right-hand corner, while a bit far to reach with the thumb, you can find it. And I kind of think it makes more sense, really. The control center from the bottom seemed a bit incongruous. Now having notifications on one side and the control center on the other does seem to make more sense. Let's jump into the front-facing camera, the true depth sensor that's on the front of the phone and sits in the notch at the top. Now, this is a 7-megapixel affair, but it's far more smart than that because it can really depth and analyze your face, and that means that it allows for things like Face ID, unlocking your phone with your face. Now, I'm not entirely sure why Apple's done this because Touch ID was perfect. It was fast, it was quick, you knew where it was, and it was responsive. However, Face ID is very, very good. You know, I've suffered with the Samsung Galaxy Note 8, for instance, with the facial recognition working about 2 out of 3 times. Face ID is almost flawless. In fact, the first time I turned this phone on, within the first 10 minutes, I was annoyed by the fact that I didn't actually turn it on, then found out I had because it was working so quickly. It works well in pitch black, on the move, and even if you've got the phone on the desk, yes, you can't see it very well, it's not as quick as using a thumb. If you put your face over it, it unlocks very quickly and is apparently more secure. When you use the iPhone X for the first time, you have to wonder one thing: why can I talk like a poo? The Animoji offering is the new thing that Apple's brought in, and it made a big deal of it in the launch itself at Cupertino, and it feels like more of a novelty than it is a really important feature. Yes, you can send pictures of yourself as a robot, or as an alien, or as a talking poo, as mentioned, but it does feel like something you might use for a little bit and then forget about. It's like the laser effects or the heart effects in iMessage. Yes, they're there, and when you remember about them, you do use them, and it's funny, but it's not a must-have feature of the phone. But what it does do is show that this phone is incredibly good at mapping your face, because the way that you can talk as a panda and have your eyebrows or your ears or just a simple mouth wiggle mimicked is really impressive, and I'm really excited to see what developers will do with this. So Animoji, in a word, are fun, but not really something that's going to really sell this phone. Rounding off the UI section, one of the things that I've noticed in the first 24 hours with this phone is that most apps aren't optimized for this new longer screen format. Now, you wouldn't expect them to be because the iPhone X actually isn't out yet, so the developers wouldn't have got their hands on all the new features, but when you're looking at the phone that doesn't have the full screen app, it just looks like you're looking at a normal iPhone. The black bars above and below just feel like something normal, and until all the developers start getting their heads together and putting this into the long screen format, you're going to feel like you've got a bit of a last gen phone. The same is true of things like Netflix. When you're watching a 16:9 movie, it's very much in the center of the screen, and the little bar at the bottom that indicates the gestures to get back home again stays lit. There's a lot of work for developers to do here to really code apps for the iPhone X. So if you're wondering about the camera, well, it's very similar to the iPhone 8 Plus. It's got a dual 12-megapixel sensor array on the back, but there are some upgrades here that do make a difference. For instance, optical image stabilization is available on both lenses, both the wide angle and telephoto, and that second zoom lens has a lower aperture. However, when we were testing this in the first 24 hours, we found that the camera actually defaults to the wide angle lens in low light to take a better picture, so you kind of wonder why it's there at all. Overall, the camera is a very good quality camera, as you'd expect from an iPhone, but it's not that dissimilar to the iPhone 8 Plus. But wait for our full review where we really check this out and get to grips with how good the sensor really is. In terms of video, the iPhone X uses the A11 Fusion chip, so it can do things like 4K at 60 frames per second or recording Full HD at 240 frames per second. Basically, all the video credentials you'd expect from an iPhone are here present and correct. And when you're watching this back, you've got the dual speakers and they sound seriously good. When you're watching a movie in bed, you get a real cinematic feel from it because there's just a real reverberation from the speakers coming out of this chunky frame and everything fits together really nicely. Obviously, it's far too early to say anything conclusively about battery right now, but 24 hours in, I'm going to have a little word anyway. I've been testing this phone pretty hard, obviously, as you'd expect, and the first day, everything wiped down pretty quickly because it was downloading loads of apps. Day 2 from 100%, and things seem pretty strong. Watching movies, portable hotspots, listening to music on the go over Bluetooth hasn't wiped the battery out too much, but we need to give this a full, proper test before we can come to any real serious conclusions. So that's been my 24 hours with the iPhone X. Obviously not enough time to test everything out, but that full review is coming very soon, so check back this Friday and you can get all the information right on Tech Radar.